Radio podcasts.
Let's get ready to rumble!
5 Live Boxing.
So welcome to another of these special Costello and Bunce mini-pods running throughout the Olympic Games boxing tournament. My name's Jonathan Overend. Mike's out in Tokyo at the Athletics. It's been pretty traumatic for him, hasn't it, in the first couple of days out there?
Traumatic and dramatic.
It certainly has. No false starts, hopefully, on this pod, and away we go. And the British team on the move, Steve. I mean, just as a general thought, where are we? 9 days into competition. We couldn't have hoped for much more, could we, from this British team?
We're one decision away from the best ever. One decision, one more person, man or female, in a semi-final, guaranteeing a medal, and we are setting records. We're already equaling records. Now, we're already looking fresh. We're already doing stuff that nobody predicted, apart from us. I mean, we were really confident. We were really, really buoyant. It seems like forever ago. We had to pull ourselves back before we started talking about 7 medals, which sounds like the talk of people that need some attention. 7 medals 6 weeks ago, you didn't sound right. 7 medals now, you sound like you're selling it correctly.
Well, it's 5 as we stand. One's already round the neck of the athlete, isn't it? That's Kariss Artingstall, who we'll talk about in a moment. We've got 2 who are guaranteed at least a silver. That's Whittaker and Pat McCormack. 2 who are guaranteed at least a bronze. That's Lauren Price. And the other one, Frazer Clarke. That's the team leader. Well, this happens, doesn't it? You stack up the medals.
I'm not, and we're not editing that. Young Jack's leaving that in. He's got to leave it in. I don't give a monkeys. I mean, I don't mind forgetting 15 of the names. I don't mind saying, the geezer from Wolverhampton, weighs about 12 stone 6, wants to be the mayor of Wolverhampton. That's a good enough description of Ben Whittaker, as far as I'm concerned.
We'll get on to him in a second. Look, let's start with Frazer Clarke, because that was such a big talking point on Sunday morning, British time. He was involved in this brawl with Murad Aliyev from France. This was for a guaranteed medal at the Olympic Games, let's not forget. Controversial, Steve. Aggro. Confusion. What was your take on it?
I think it was badly handled by the gloriously named and exotic American referee, Mustache A. Mustachio. Trust me, that is not, I'm not taking the mickey, that's his name. And before you ask, I have no idea if underneath his mask he does actually have a moustache to go with his Mustache A. Mustachio name. He handled it, I think, badly. 4 seconds to go in the second round, he stopped the contest and disqualified Murad Ali. Murad Ali at that point had opened up 2 cuts, one by the side of the left eye, one over the right eye on Frazer Clarke's face. Now, they were headbutts, but they weren't intentional headbutts. So that might sound like a contradiction. It's not a contradiction. He was using his head. Was he using it maliciously? No. He was using it carelessly. He was using it recklessly. He was using it dangerously. And I honestly believe, and I don't want to criticise officials, I think Mr. Mustachios should have called him on that earlier. Should have called Aliyev in this first round and given him a warning and really talked to him and given him a stern warning. As it was, he gave him the warning and then disqualified him, which is no wonder that Murad Aliyev then staged, close to an hour, as you said on 5 Live, close to an hour-long protest. But he did it outside the ring, not in the ring. Had he done it in the ring, he might have found himself in a lot of trouble. Because he did it outside the ring, he'll probably get off of it. It was a bad-tempered display from him. Brilliant work by Frazer. Fight at the time of the stoppage was close, not a lot in it. And bear in mind that Frazer lost to Murad Aliyev in the Olympic qualifier less than 6 weeks ago. So he was burying some demons in the fight. Delight for Frazer Clarke. Seems to have been criticised a little bit for suggesting he was cheating. I said to him in a private message, Frazer, on 5 Live, I accused you of not complaining enough because the guy was using his head. You should have told the referee. He's just not that type of guy. So big Frazer, Captain Fantastic, the daddy in the team, 29 years of age, through to the semi-final, and that's where he fights. And I know I keep saying it, and people are wondering if I'm being, a little bit condescending. He fights the Big Uzbek. Well, he's called the Big Uzbek because he is the Big Uzbek. That's his nickname. And he's had 8 professional fights. I'm talking, of course, about Galal. Now, they fight each other on Wednesday. Frazer did beat him back in 2014, but 2014 in amateur boxing terms is like 25 years ago in the real world. So I hate to say it. So we're not sure what's going to happen there. But it's big Frazer against Galal in the semi-final at super heavyweight. And that's our division. We've dominated this division. And I mean that. In the last, I think, 6 or 7 Olympics, we've got 2 bronze medals, a silver medal and 2 gold medals. Now Frazer guaranteed at least a bronze. That's domination of a division. Overs?
What about the cuts, though, Steve? How dangerous are they? How inconvenient will they be for Clarke in these future fights?
Well, let me tell you this. If Frazer Clarke was about to step into the ring in Las Vegas for a $50 million extravaganza heavyweight title fight in front of 20,000 and billions worldwide, as Michael Buffer might say, he would not be allowed to fight with these cuts. But because it's the Olympics and they bend the rules in a bizarre way, he'll be able to get in the ring. He might have stitches on them. He might have internal stitches. And he'll have them. We've seen it. I remember I pointed it out to you about, it seems like forever ago. I said, look at that guy. He's fighting with a little bit of skin. They call it new skin. You can buy it in a chemist. Basically, it's a skin that goes over a cut to stop it opening again. So that's how they let their boxers at the Olympics continue through a tournament. No head guards means cuts. Cuts means, in theory, delays. But the Olympic doctors, they're a brave bunch. They're a hardy bunch. They just stick some plastic skin over it and they get them back in the ring.
Well, good job, Frazer Clarke. Guaranteed at least a bronze medal. Obviously doesn't want to stop there. And also, well played to him for the way he conducted himself, I thought, in those really difficult, trying circumstances. Trying to calm Aliev down, trying to be the diplomat. He conducted himself with extreme integrity, which is the complete opposite of his opponent on the day, who frankly disgraced himself with his behaviour. So, Ben Whittaker, the future mayor of Wolverhampton, Steve, how impressed have you been? He's into the gold medal fight.
Well, first of all, don't take the mickey out of him being the future mayor of that glorious city in Britain's Black Country. Wolverhampton, I love that place. It gets a hard time. It's a brilliant, brilliant place. I'm not sure where to start and end with Ben. He's scraped through so many times. He's entertained us. And as I keep telling you, don't be fooled by his smiles. Don't be fooled by his pretty boy image. Don't be fooled by his love of singing away from boxing. He's an old-fashioned scrapper. And that's what he had to do against Iman Katiev, the guy that we thought, hands up, I thought it was going to be all over. I thought Katiev was good. He'd had 3 wins at the Olympics, 2 knockouts, and he'd also bashed up the #1 seed. He looked untouchable. No, Ben made it awkward and tricky. There wasn't a lot in it. It wasn't a disgraceful decision, and Ben got it to go through to the final. And I tell you what, that's 4 wins down and he's in the final. I'm not saying it's the most unlikely of the British finalists, but he wouldn't have been in my top 5 or 6 to get there, as much as I like him. I think he's fought out of his skin, even though he has upset you once or twice with his showboating overs. He has upset you once or twice.
I don't know about that.
Is that too strong? He's upset too strong.
But that was the quarterfinals, Steve. And did we see it? Did we see it in the semis? We didn't really, not like we did in the quarters.
He gutted it out.
So actually, I was interested whether you'd send him a warning, and we kind of sent him a little bit of a warning, didn't we? We were saying, look, this shouldn't overtake the fact that you fought brilliantly, you're elusive, and you've defended really well. But it's just on our minds. Don't do it if it's tight in the gold medal match. And I think he listened.
I think he listened. I don't think he listened. I know he listened. Anyway, he's only fighting a sort of 6'11" freak Cuban. I know what I mean. You think I'm joking? The Cubans do a thing, and I've told you this before. If they look like they're welterweights, they're probably featherweights. If they look like they're light heavyweights, they're probably middleweights. They're just enormous. They are. They have these schools in Cuba, and it's not a joke. It's not me hyping it. Where they look for elite athletes to go into different sports, and the boxers are all very tall and all very lean. And he's fighting a guy called Lopez in the final. Hey, my gut feeling, he has a harder fight against Katiev. If you'd have asked me who does he beat, Lopez or Katiev, I would have said he beats Lopez, he loses to Katiev. So he's beaten Katiev, now it's Lopez. What a final, that's Wednesday.
Okay, another final to look forward to, which actually is on Tuesday, just after 11 o'clock in the morning UK time. That's Pat McCormack, who didn't have to fight his semi-final, Steve. A withdrawal by Aidan Walsh from Ireland, so he's now got this glorious opportunity, one fight for Olympic gold.
Okay. He's fighting it in the final. It's another Cuban. It's a guy who won gold in London, a guy who lost in the quarters in Rio. This is his 4th Olympics. He's 32 years of age. Roniel Iglesias. What luck, what bad luck do you need to reach the final of the Olympics and to come up against one of the quintessential Cubans? You know, several world championships under his belt. Four-time Olympian, but there's something about Pat. He's not they don't give the #1 seeding away at these Olympics for fun. It's not done alphabetically. Pat McCormack's the #1 seed here. He's looked fairly impervious, hasn't he? He's looked fairly regal in many ways overs. And I've got to say, I fancy him in the final against the Cuban. And that is a sentence I never believed I'd utter in all of my years. Let's say I work another 10, 15 years in this business, and so let's say when I started in the early 80s, I never thought I'd ever say, I fancy the British guy to beat the Cuban in the Olympic final. I never thought I would ever utter that, but I'm saying it here. I fancy Pat McCormack to win the welterweight gold medal at the welterweight gold medal at the Olympics in 2021 in Tokyo by beating the Cuban Roniel Iglesias. There, I've said it.
I can't wait to see it. I cannot wait to see it happen. That's Tuesday. Lauren Price is the other guaranteed medal. She's got a long wait, actually, right through until Friday, until her semi-final. And Kariss Artingstall already has that medal around her neck, Steve. She'll be taking it back proudly to the British Army, proudly back to Macclesfield, proudly back to her family. Yeah. How well deserved was that medal?
Well, it was well deserved, and she lost to a brilliant young Japanese woman called Senna Ivy, who I think has been really impressive. And she had 3 wins here at the Olympics, which is brilliant for Kariss. But there's an asterisk coming. Kariss lost, not by a flurry of punches, but by 1 point. If the Cuban judge had been in line with his brothers and sisters in the judging lineup in one particular round and scored it for Kariss, like the rest of them did, she'd be in the final. But you know what? The judging and the quality of the refereeing here has been so high that I'm not going to be critical of it. That's what happens. Kariss didn't scream the place down. We're not going to scream the place down. But she was 1 point away from being in the semi-finals, and that would have gone from 3-2 in favour of Ivy to 3-2 in favour of Kariss. It was that close. And I heard an interview she did with Adrian Charles on 5 Live, and she was just brilliant. She wasn't moaning and screaming. What she did say, though, sending a message to all the featherweights out there, is I'm back for the Commonwealth Games next year in Birmingham, and I'm coming back for Paris, brother. I'm going to be there.
Okay, that's 5 medals then for Great Britain, and you think we're done? Oh no. Caroline Dubois, Galal Yafai, both in action on Tuesday for the right to play semi-finals. And that means more guaranteed medals potentially if they can both win their next fights. That would be 6. It could be 7, Steve. Who do you give the better chance of further progression to?
Oh, well, listen, Galal's fighting a guy who was the defending world champion and the number 1 seed at the World Championships in 2019 when Galal beat him, a Cuban called Yosvani Vete. Now, that was a stunning win. He's got to pull that off again just to get to a medal. It's another GB v Cuban mix. Good luck to Galal. That's impossible. He's been there before. I think Caroline Dubois has got the harder task. She's only 20 years of age. She's fighting a 29-year-old Thai with the most ridiculous name, Sudaporn Sisonde. And actually, Sudaporn's a company. Lots of the Thai boxers, both the amateurs and the pros, their first names are companies. So you could have someone called. You think I'm joking? You could have someone called Daft Truck Chitchonchi. No, we get that all the time. So it's no good laughing over. I'm telling you the truth. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. She's got a real task against Sun Sun Si. And what's really interesting about Sun Sun Si, she's a veteran of 4 world championships. And in one of these world championships, only 4.5 years ago, she weighed 11 stone 7 at middleweight. She'd only been 9'10" for this fight. And she's big. You remember we watched her, and I nudged her when we watched her, and we both shook our heads. She's a beast. She's really big and really strong. If Caroline beats her, it will be one of the best wins, certainly during this Olympics, by a British boxer. It's a tough one for both of them, both for Dubois and Yafai on Tuesday morning.
I love the branded name thing. You love your coffee.
True story.
What was your favourite brand of coffee?
What my favourite brand of coffee? What would it do? It would be, I don't know, it'd be something Blue Mountain. I'd call, if I was allowed to have a fighting name in honour of coffee, it would be Blue Mountain Jamaica Bunce. Okay, it's long, but it's catchy.
Brilliant. So the Olympic Games continues into the second week of the games out in Tokyo, and there's boxing every day. You can follow it on 5 Live. Steve, you were also following events at Matchroom on Saturday night down at Fight Club outdoors. How did it go?
Well, it was outdoors at Matchroom Garden, Eddie Hearn's old garden from his childhood, and Zucan couldn't. And now Zucan is the Chinese WBA World Featherweight Champion, and he came over here to defend his title in what we thought would be an easy one, a little precursor to a fight maybe early next year against Josh Warrington, and the British champion Leigh Wood from Nottingham, a decent to massive underdog, not only beat him up, but knocked him out in the 12th and final round. So Zucan was dethroned. He does have a rematch clause, and he'll probably do it. And at the time of the stoppage, Leigh Wood was in front 3 rounds by one judge, and 5 on the other 2. It was close to a massacre. I mean, I couldn't believe how easy he made it look. So I was a bit surprised by that. It was a great win. And this Saturday, another world title, back-to-back world featherweight titles. Never happened in the history of British boxing. Kid Galahad, exotically named Kid Galahad, from the Brendan Ingle gym up in Sheffield, fights Jazza Dickens, managed by Tony Bellew from Liverpool, for the vacant IBF featherweight title. Who'd have thought that by the end of this week we'll have 2 British boxers holding world featherweight titles. What a crazy boxing world we live in, Overs.
What a time to be alive. Blue Mountain Bunce. Costello out in Tokyo. Steve on the boxing, Mike on the athletics. The rest of the brilliant 5 Live team as well will continue their coverage if you're across the games. There really is something for everybody at the moment. It's all action stuff. And we'll be back, no doubt, in the middle of the week with another update on this Costello Bunce podcast feed as the Olympic boxing tournament continues apace. We'll see you soon.